When people think of the greatest seasons in NFL history, they typically include performances like Dan Marino's legendary 1984 season, Peyton Manning's romp in 2013, or more recently, Patrick Mahomes' first year as a starter back in 2018. These seasons were career defining performances by legendary players at the peak of their powers. Well, I mean, except for Patrick Mahomes. And they defied our expectations on what was actually possible in the NFL. And to me personally, greatness is not just about playing really well on the field, it's about redefining what's possible. It's about breaking down barriers and pushing past the limits that people thought would stand the test of time. These truly great seasons help define the legacies of truly great players, and they undeniably have an impact on the history of the game. And with all of that being said, I now want to turn our attention towards another season and another quarterback. That's right, everybody. We're talking about Jameis Winston. Yep, that's right. We're talking about Jameis Winston, and this guy might not be someone that comes top of mind when you think of great NFL players, or really someone who's even remotely considered in that conversation. And to be honest, he really shouldn't be. In his 9 years in the NFL so far, the former number one overall pick has a career completion percentage of 61.2, has thrown for just over 22,000 yards, and has 141 passing and 11 rushing touchdowns to his name. It's not that bad, but that's not what Jameis is exactly known for. More notoriously, Jameis Winston has thrown for 99 career interceptions and has fumbled the ball a whopping 55 times. Yes, believe it or not, in his career, Jameis Winston actually has two more turnovers than he has touchdowns. But that's also without context, and context absolutely matters, especially when talking about a quarterback like Jameis. Because when you look at the year by year breakdown of Jameis's career, it quickly becomes apparent that he had a year that was not quite like the others. In 2019, under new head coach Bruce Arians and his high octane offense, Jameis Winston led the league in passing yards with 5,109 yards. And hey, that's pretty great. He also threw for 33 touchdowns and ran for one more. Again, 34 total touchdowns is pretty awesome. I would even go as far as to say that this would be a record setting year. And it was. But not because of how good Jameis was or because of how good those numbers I just listed were. Oh, no, no, no. This year was a record setter because Jameis threw for 30 interceptions and had 12 fumbles. And it's those 30 interceptions that truly define this year. Dubbed the 30 and 30 year, Jameis Winston's 2019 campaign would go down as perhaps the most notorious individual performance in NFL history. And it pretty much cemented his legacy as the ultimate boom bust player and the interception king. 2019 was a year where Jameis threw around 23% of his career yards, 23% of his career touchdowns, and a whopping 30% of his career interceptions. Fun fact, Jameis also notoriously threw 7 pick-sixes this year, which is an NFL record. The Bucs would finish 7-9 that year, and due entirely to this season, would aggressively go after and sign Tom Brady. And you all know what happened after that. But what if I were to tell you that this was, even despite the interception woes, actually one of the all-time great NFL seasons, right up there with the legendary performances of Dan Marino in his 1984 season? You don't believe me? Good. You shouldn't, because I'm lying. It's not. This performance was absolutely atrocious. Like, maybe the worst season by a player ever. This is the quarterback equivalent of Reggie Bush running for -3 yards back in 2016. However, with that being said, in a way, it also was the greatest season ever, believe it or not, from an entertainment perspective, at least. And to me, what makes a season like Jameis's 2019 year so beautiful is that it should have never happened. And I mean that quite literally. An outcome like 30 and 30 legitimately should have been impossible to occur in the modern NFL because Jameis Winston should have never been allowed to play out the whole year. Yet he did, and this season actually happened in real life. It's actually unbelievable, and I'm still in shock. 4 years later, like, you would have thought that after, I don't know, like week 6, when Jameis already had 10 picks on the year, Bruce Arians would have at least considered benching him, right? Or what about week 11 when he had 20 picks on the year? Surely Jameis would have been riding pine by then. Wait a minute. Who would have been the quarterback if Jameis was on the bench? Who was the backup quarterback for the Bucks that year? Oh, okay. I see. I get it now. All right, let's do this. This is the Sports Ball Network, and this is our breakdown of the most frustrating, shocking, and in a way magical quarterback season of all time. A season in which Jameis Winston, NFL quarterback, founded the 30 and 30 Club and forever changed the game. This is all right. First things first, to understand the 30 and 30 season and really get into why it could even happen, we need to understand the state of the Bucks at the time. Tampa in 2019 just came off of a 5-11 season in which Jameis was hurt for the back half. Uh, they fired their coach, Dirk Carter. They needed direction. Tampa was unsure on what to do with the quarterback position. Jameis had his 5th-year option. They weren't at the time decided on whether or not to exercise it. They needed a new coach, so they bring in Bruce Arians, who is one of the better offensive minds in the league and a guy who is known as a quarterback guru. Uh, and given the state of free agency at the time and given what happened there, Tampa ended up deciding to exercise the 5th-year option of Jameis, give him one more chance to really show what he could do and see what they had in him. So going into the year, you have Bruce Arians, new head coach, installing his new system, Jameis Winston on a 5th-year option, playing for his deal. And at the quarterback position, at least, not much else. I mean, Ryan Griffin was brought in as the backup, but that's really all he was going to be for the team, a backup. It was made very clear leading up to the season that Jameis was going to be starting the whole year no matter what happened. Bruce was committed to keeping him in the lineup, not benching him, and letting him ride it out. The team at the time really did have a great defense. They had an amazing offense. They had all-star players in Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. They had a pretty good tight end in Cameron Brate. They had a much touted tight end prospect in OJ Howard, who was struggling through his first 2 years, but the team was hoping could still break out. Uh, on the defense, they had really strong players like Vita Vea that would eventually help to really bring a Super Bowl title to the team. They had Devin White leading the defense as well. Avante David, Shaquille Barrett, Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy Bunting, Vernon Hargrave, Ndamukong Suh, Carl Nassib. So just an absolutely stacked roster. Really just, if they saw competent quarterback play, would have probably won the division and made a deep run in the playoffs. And at least through the offseason, it looks like Jameis Winston might have been able to provide that for Tampa. And then we get to week 1 of the 2019 regular season. Coach Bruce Arians' NFL debut in Tampa. And Jameis just threw a pick. Okay, whatever. Let's get back on track here. Arians is making his debut in Tampa. He's looking to turn things around. All they really need is competent quarterback play, and Jameis just threw another pick. And the Niners ran it back for a touchdown. Really, I don't think things could possibly get any worse for Coach Arians in his Tampa Bay debut. And Jameis just threw another pick six. What is he doing? You know what? Forget it. Let's just move on here. So, as you could probably tell, Jameis started off the year hot, throwing for 194 yards and a touchdown to go along with 3 interceptions against the San Francisco 49ers to effectively lose Coach Arians' Tampa debut by himself. But let's be fair, Jameis is in a new and famously aggressive offensive system. And there was a lot of hype in the offseason that he was going to do pretty well. Maybe this game was just a fluke, and throws like this one might make it seem like it's all Jameis's fault and that it wasn't a fluke. But also look at the start to Chris Godwin. He threaded the needle so beautifully. And yes, even with the loss, things were looking up for Tampa at the time. Yep, totally. And all that they really needed to happen was Jameis to turn the ball over just a little bit less. I mean, the team is absolutely stacked. Now, yeah, Jameis is pretty famous specifically for his ability to turn over the ball at an unusual clip, but Bruce Arians will surely whip him into shape, right? So let's give him another week and then we'll talk about Tampa and how they're really eating up those top shelf W's. And hey, over the next few weeks, looks like things did work out. Bruce Arians just needed some time. Over the next 4 games after that week 1 embarrassment, Jameis only threw 2 interceptions and 10 touchdowns. Now, that's a 5-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And you want to know who else has a 5-to-1 touchdown interception ratio for their career? Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, that's right. Jameis, over those past 4 weeks, played just like Aaron Rodgers. Totally. And Aaron Rodgers is pretty good, if I'd say so myself. So that obviously means that Jameis was pretty good too, right? And yeah, Tampa at the time was 2-3, but it seemed like the offense was going to gel together. And considering the talent on this roster on both sides of the ball, we might be talking playoffs if they win Week 6 against Carolina. And of course, Jameis couldn't just help himself, huh? Why? Why is he like this? I just don't get it. He's throwing pick sixes like they give him a dopamine rush. Hey, Jameis, throw to the people in red and white, not blue. The goal is to throw to your team, Jameis. Just that's it. I'm done. At this point in the 2019 season, I'm shocked that Bruce Arians is not seriously considering benching Jameis. He's still talking about him as if he's the unquestioned starter, despite the fact that he has 10 picks through 6 games and has lost the team 2 whole games just by himself. The Bucs, with the level of talent that they have, should at least be 4-2. And to be honest, they would be 4-2 if literally anyone but Jameis Winston was at quarterback. Now, who is the backup again? Right, Ryan Griffin. Okay, this is going to be an all-year thing for real, huh? I just can't fathom it. There's 10 more games of this season, really? I mean, to be honest, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to watch this. And I'm just reviewing the season 5 years after it happened. And I'm not even a Bucs fan. I can't even imagine what they were going through at the time. It must have been rough. Like, look at this. Look at this. 2 picks week 8, 2 week 10, 4 week 11, 2 week 12. Like, how is he still playing at this point? I mean, he has 22 touchdowns, but he also has 20 picks in 12 weeks. Most quarterbacks don't sniff that level of incompetence in a whole season. Yet here's 2019 Jameis producing turnovers like a master patissier who's refined the craft for decades. Bruce Arians, I have a question. Why did you keep Jameis in at this point in the season? Your team is still in playoff contention. The team is still extremely talented, and just with competent quarterback play, chances are you're probably running away with the division. But you're keeping Jameis in because of throws like this, which, yeah, are awesome, but come on. I mean, with Jameis in, it's not like you're making the postseason. It's clear Don't you want to see what you have in Ryan Griffin? No? Okay, I get it. But still, the thought to bench him hasn't even crossed the mind of Bruce Arians once at this point in the year? Really? I'm not buying it. And if that is true, Bruce Arians is partly to blame for why we even have 30 for 30. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Even in wins, Jameis can't help himself. Honestly, the man's ability to turn the ball over and just get right back in that huddle and turn the ball over again without any decrease in his confidence whatsoever is pretty admirable. Like, you would think that by his fourth game of the year throwing 3 or more picks, he would have maybe, just maybe, questioned himself and his abilities even for half a millisecond. I mean, I certainly would. But nope, not Jameis. He goes right out there and just keeps on throwing interceptions and playing football. I guess maybe that's why I'm not in the NFL and Jameis Winston is. Because I'm a normal human being who would have doubted themselves at this point, and Jameis is not, and he's clearly got that dog in him. Plus, Jameis does have the full support of Coach Arians, a known hater of NFL quarterback Ryan Griffin, who is Jameis's only backup still at this point in the 2019 season, and the only competition he has for his job. And you know what? Hey, going into the final game of the year against the Atlanta Falcons, Jameis does have a chance to exceed 5,000 yards and maybe lead the league in yardage for the year. That's awesome. And he also does have 31 touchdowns, which is also awesome. Maybe he can add a couple more and bump those numbers up a bit. Let's also keep in mind that Jameis does have 28 interceptions at this point and is tied for the most pick sixes in NFL history for a single season with 6. And those last 2 points are not even really passable. But in this game, all Jameis needs to do is not throw 2 interceptions and a pick 6 while having a decent overall game, and he'll avoid eternal infamy forever.
Time on the NFL passing list. Oh, and this one is picked off. That one's on the receiver, I believe. Ricardo Allen. One of them run the wrong play.
Okay, that's cutting it a bit close, Jameis. Like, calm down, relax. I know you like to live on the edge, but this is a bit extreme. You're at 29 interceptions, and do you really want to be known for 30 and 30 here? I mean, you are going to be known for 30 and 30. The title of the video spoils it, but still, we're acting like you still have a chance here. And hey, right side, wasn't a pick 6, and the Bucs are winning the game. You know what? Just win the game, end the season, and we'll be fine. We'll take it from there, and this will just be another season in NFL history that was really bad, but also not special. Surely the game won't go to overtime, though, right? There's no way. Atlanta, you can stop now. Just let Tampa win and end this monstrosity of a year.
Young Wei Koo tries to send it to overtime. And he does.
Overtime. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. I love extra football. I mean, football is my favorite sport ever. And more of a good thing never really hurt anybody, right? Now, Jameis, you have one job. Do not throw an interception.
Down for Tampa Bay would win it. Only 3 points scored in the entire half. It is an interception for a touchdown. It's Debo Jones. And he ties that 30-30, the first guy to do it. Another LSU defender.
And, of course, he threw an interception. That really happened, huh? I'm so shocked. Sarcasm aside, let's take a step back here and be fair to Jameis. It did take overtime for him to get to 30 interceptions on the season, and it took overtime for him to break the pick 6 record. But he did both in a single season. And at the time, that was an absolute shock. And really, I don't think a lot of people actually thought that that could happen, but it did. And it was because we had the perfect storm of things leading up to it. Bruce Arians coming in with an ultra aggressive offensive system. Jameis on the 5th-year option with nothing to lose. Tampa really trying to see what they had in the quarterback position. And really, when you boil down this season, it was all of those little factors coming together to form this perfect storm, which allowed a season such as Jameis's 30-30 to even come into existence. Now, even though it was terrible in a sense, it also was great. There was some really genuine good things that Jameis did this year. He threw for over 5,000 yards. He's only one of 9 quarterbacks to do so. He threw for 34 touchdowns. And that's also extremely hard. And if you're throwing for 30 touchdowns in a season, you're doing something right. But something just went so horribly wrong for Jameis in this year. And as a result, it's just continued to haunt him and define his career. Following the 2019 season, Jameis Winston did not get a second contract from the Bucks. He ended up going to New Orleans in a backup role and is now on the Cleveland Browns as their backup quarterback to Deshaun Watson. Bruce Arians and the Bucks, doing this nightmare of a season, took absolutely no chances moving forward and brought in Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time in Tampa, and immediately won the Super Bowl. This season was special. I know I said in the beginning of the video that it was absolutely terrible, and it is. It was a terrible season. But it also was a great quarterback season. It was a special year, and it was a season that had an unbelievable impact on the history of the NFL. If Jameis doesn't throw as many interceptions, or if he doesn't throw as many pick sixes, do the Bucks win the NFC South in 2019 and make the playoffs? Is Jameis their starter in 2020? Does Tom Brady ever leave the Patriots? The Buccaneers are not an option for him. If we're being serious for a moment, the 30-30 season, more than any other season, really helped to define the early 2020s for the NFL. And personally, it's honestly one of my favorite all-time performances, even if it isn't necessarily a good one. It was a magical season. It was a frustrating season. It was a terrible season and an amazing season, all at the same time. It was the definition of Jameis Winston as a quarterback. And as much as Jameis Winston defines this season defines Jameis Winston. And while it is not a great season in the traditional sense, it is one of the great quarterback seasons. We're never going to see a season in which so many factors come together to allow a quarterback like Jameis Winston to play in a system like Bruce Arians that enables him to get to 30-30. And that's okay. I don't think a lot of people would want to see a season like 30-30 ever again. And I wouldn't blame them. It was equal parts great as it was frustrating. But 30-30 is a great season. It had an impact on the game. And as I mentioned earlier in my definition of what truly great seasons are, they're seasons that rewrite the record books and leave onlookers awestruck. They break past the limits of what people thought was possible. They break down barriers. They stand the test of time. And as much as Jameis Winston's 30-30 season was terrible, it was great in that sense. It is a season that does not have any equal. It will stand the test of time. And because of that, 30-30 is, in a way, the greatest quarterback season of all time. Thanks for watching.